We're going to have a great conversation with a tax specialist. We're joined by Kim Moody, who is a founder of Moody's Private Client Law, as well as Moody's Tax.
If you take somebody who's making 40,000, or even, let's be generous and say 50,000, can they afford that package of chicken breast and steak? No.
Canadians expect to pay more to eat.
A new report from the Agri-Food Analytics Lab reveals growing anxiety around food affordability among Canadians.
Wealthy people care about inflation? No.
Despite efforts to quash the rise in food prices, many Canadian shoppers still feel like they're paying a whole lot more for their groceries than they originally expected.
Out of all the kind of expenses or costs Canadians seem to worry about, food is still the number one thing.
I will forever go to my grave blaming the Liberal government for their out-of-control spending. There's a reason why prudent governments who are fiscally conservative, and historically Liberal parties have been fiscally conservative as well. This version of the Liberal Party is ridiculous, but there's a reason why, for example, they're fiscally conservative, because it's common sense that if you pump the economy with too much money, and you have, as economists, and even I think Pierre's picked up on this, when you have so much money chasing so few goods, what does that do? Well, it drives up inflation, right? And do wealthy people care about inflation? No, because they benefit from it. Their portfolios go up, makes them wealthier, right? But do the poor or the middle income people, if you want to call it that, do they care? Yeah. And even some higher income earners care. What, you guys, I'm sure, make a decent living, but like I do. But when you go to the grocery store, I mean, I was thinking about the other day, I went and got a couple packages of chicken breasts and one package of steak, and I can't remember what else, some vegetables. It was $130 for, and I looked at it, and it would barely fit the screen that I'm looking into right now, the items. And I think to myself, I can afford this. I don't want to afford paying $40 for a small little pack of steak, but who can afford that? The average income earner, and the average income earner makes, it's not a lot of money in Canada. I can't remember what the statistic is off the top of my head. I want to say it's somewhere around $40,000. It's a low number,
right?
So if you take somebody who's making 40,000, or even, let's be generous and say 50,000, can they afford that package of chicken breast and steak? No, they can't. And so that, to me, is where the rubber hits the road with the dissatisfaction, right? When you guys are on social media and you see all this dissatisfaction, what I see is, the average person who really struggles to put groceries on the table and to make their mortgage payments, especially after renewal,
right?
After renewal, it's jumped like crazy. And so that to me is just so heinous, because inflation is a tax on the poor, and I will forever go to my grave blaming the Liberal government for their out of control spending. Even during COVID, on the front end of COVID, I could get around that because nobody knew what we we're dealing with.
Right.
But after the first few months, and you continue with shoveling out this money out the door, with no accountability, I'll forever go to my grave and not forgive them for that kind of piss poor management of our economy that ultimately increased inflation and ultimately harmed the average worker and their families. That to me is quasi unforgivable.
How would you like to see a 91-year case study that we put together to explain how this infinite banking thing can work for a family over 2 generations? Well, you know what? Real easy to do that. We have that right in our second book, Cash Follows the Leader. You can get a copy for free delivered right to your inbox. Head on over to cashfollows.com. That's cashfollows.com and pick up a copy right now.
I personally think the only way that our country, and any Western democracy, or any country for that matter, improves their lot in life is when their citizens are financially literate, on average.
Right.
And because when you're financially literate, you're going to make better informed choices. This whole thing of the boogeyman over here is going to really impact you. Pick your boogeyman of the day. And the left is famous for, abortion or climate change or, the out of control housing, all the boogeyman stuff. No, no, no. Really, at the end of the day, this is about how is our economy managed. And frankly, the less managed, the better, as long as government spending is in control and that we have good economic and tax policies to make the garden fertile. Now, how are people going to understand that? Well, by taking an active interest in trying to understand even basic economics. Like, go take a course. My youngest son right now is taking. He just enrolled in SATE because he wants to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, good on you.
Amen to that.
I love entrepreneurs. But he said, "Hey, Dad, if I want to be an entrepreneur, what's going to set myself up?" I said, "Well, you better take some basic business courses, and that includes accounting and finance and economics." And to his credit, he, one of the few times he listened to good old Dad, and he signed up and he's taken a course. He's taken his diploma at SATE, and I'm really excited for him. Just, it's only been a week that he's been in these courses, but some of the questions he's asking me and see the twinkle in his eye, that makes me excited. Notwithstanding he's my son, but I like to see that from every Canadian because it is so important, and your financial future depends on understanding basic stuff. So financial literacy, in my view, is the way out of this mess. Do you know what the top 5% roughly earns in Canada? Individual, median, not
Top
median, sorry,
5%.
average. I'm going from memory here, but I won't be far off. About 130,000.
Wow.
But so that means the top 5% earn anywhere from, like, average is 130, right? So there's a lot of higher income earners above that.
Yeah.
Do you know how much they pay in tax as Canada's tax load? And I should probably just double check while I'm still on here because I might screw this number up with the top 10%, but it's somewhere around 50%. Which, when you think about that, and then I talk about, the statistics I've already told you guys about how many people have left Canada and what it takes for even one billionaire. Let's say you have a person that has $1 billion, and let's say they earn 5%. So they're earning $50 million a year. And let's say they pay on average 50% tax. So they're paying $25 million in tax. How many average Canadians does it take to just replace that 25 million?
A lot.
A lot.
That's a
A lot.
ludicrous number. Hey, if you like this video, go ahead, watch more right here. Or if you want to watch the full conversation, the full podcast episode, go ahead, click right here.